Hello, everybody, and welcome to tonight's episode of Talking Elite, episode 65. Tonight, we have a really cool sidetrack topic I wanted to talk about, and that's independent wrestling. Let me introduce our panel real quick. Joining us also, always my partner in crime. I'm always glad he can always come on. Him and I have done a lot of the WrestleManias by ourselves, and we just love going back and forth, learning everything from the old school days of wrestling, from the territories to the Monday Night Wars. Jason, how you doing?
I am doing well, sir. Yourself?
Not too bad. It's actually starting to rain here in my town, so awesome.
It's been on and off here all day. We've had a lot of rain the past couple of weeks.
Oh yeah, it's been raining. I'm actually about to open my. Yeah, I want to watch the rain. There we go. Very soothing. And also joining us tonight, one of our favorite people. Again, I say this all the time. Without him, the show wouldn't be what it is. And he actually wants to start off tonight's show with a little bit of an announcement. But this is our favorite producer, Connor. Connor, how you doing? The floor is yours.
Yeah, I'm doing all right. Could be better, I guess. I thought I'd start this off. As you guys know, today a few things I want to say. First, I'll start off with today we were supposed to have our interview with Ross and Marshall Von Erich, but that has been moved for tomorrow at the same time as we had planned. But they will be on tomorrow. Ross and Marshall Von Erich, they're the sons of Kevin Von Erich. They'll be on. Everyone who is interested, you can leave questions in the comments and they'll answer them. And that I kind of feel like this is going to come up a lot in our live reactions. And I just want to get it out of the way. Had a lot of interesting things happen today. I just want to get this all out of the way because we do this podcast because we want to enjoy what we're doing. We don't do it because we have to. We do it because we want to do this. I never want this to come off as a chore to anybody that is just dreading to be on. So I thought I'd just address this. Me and Mr. Jacobs touched on a little bit last night during our Dynamite live reaction. Of course, everyone knows AEW released the footage of CM Punk and Jack Perry. I thought we would go ahead and get this out of the way because it can create some toxic discussions, I guess, on here. And we've dealt with that some in our own little thing. We are called the All Elite Zone. We may say things that may not always, what's the word I'm looking for? We may not act like we like AEW, but I wouldn't be doing this podcast if I didn't like AEW. I've been to 15 plus AEW shows. I've bought hundreds of dollars of merchandise. I went to pay-per-views. I've bought their video game. I've bought action figures. If I didn't like AEW, I've already shut this whole thing down. So I just wanted to get that out of the way too. A lot of people think that we hate AEW or we have our respected opinions, and I feel like everyone should have their own opinion. They should be respected for it. But we all like AEW, or nobody would be here. This show is called Talking Elite, the All Elite Zone. We all like AEW. But what I thought about last night of that, I thought was pretty embarrassing. The most embarrassed I've ever been to be an AEW fan. I hope that they learn from that and never do that again, because I feel like that really backfired on them. I've never been embarrassed to be an AEW fan up until this point, but I hope that they learn from their mistakes. And I wanted to get this out of the way because we've had some things happen today. I'm not going to go into detail what it is, but does anyone else have anything they'd like to say off that?
I'll just jump in. Last week, we did the assessment of Tony Khan last week, and one thing I left out, I did start out how grateful for Tony Khan and starting AEW that I was, but I did not point out, WCW, Crockett, however you want to look at it, had been around since the 70s, if not further back. I'd have to look. But, he started the company with the Bucks and Kenny and Cody from the ground up. It was brand new. And with that, there's always going to be growing pains. There's always going to be mistakes and things to learn. And I just think it comes across a little bit, for people that dissect it. Now, if you just want to watch as a fan and not do podcasts and not do shows, more power to you. But if you're going to do things like this, in my opinion, you're not being fair to the product if you just blindly follow what they do without criticism. Definitely, we definitely, tell what we like, and there's going to be some things we don't like. There's going to be some things that Adam likes that I don't. There's going to be some things that Connor likes that I don't, and all the way down the board, and that's okay. But it's, we're here to, not only put over the good, but criticize what we don't, why we don't, and we might be in the, number amount of people that don't, or versus the, we might be in the majority that like it. We might be in the minority that don't. It's entertainment, people. Don't take it personal. The guys and girls don't take it personal. The majority of them are friends. They were all, sending Cody messages and congratulating him. The only toxicity in the wrestling world is what we create. Let's not create it. WWE makes mistakes. TNA makes mistakes. Ring of Honor made mistakes before Tony bought it. WCW, God knows they made their fair share of mistakes. Regardless of why it went out of business, it went out of business. And, so just because we don't like something doesn't mean it's not okay if you do. It's fine. We're not telling you what to like and what we don't like, what not to like. We're just here to, I've said it before, I'll say it again. I told Connor and, privately earlier, this is my escape from reality. I'm not here to argue with anybody, man. I'm just here to have some fun and BS and, occasionally make Adam and Danny laugh, because that's just what I do. And, have some fun with it. If wrestling's going to put you into a panic attack and anxiety mode, maybe you should find some other form of entertainment. Because, I might, as where I agree with Connor, I thought last night was embarrassing on two aspects. I really don't have a problem with Will Ospreay taking shots at Triple H, but, come up with new material. That shit's been used for 20 years. You want to take some shots because you thought he was personally talking about you. No issue, man. Take your shots, but let's find something new to talk to him about. The CM Punk video, personally, not condoning his actions. I put that out there. I'm not saying it's okay to hit people in the workplace. It's not what I'm saying. Just from the video, the reason I thought it was embarrassing was because the interview he did with Armani last week, 2 weeks ago, whatever it's been now, basically was, damn near word for word what he said happened. I'd love to hear the audio, to go along with it, to see exactly what Jack Perry said. But, again, not condoning his actions, but it just backed up what to me, what he said in the interview. So, I thought it was a bad look all the way around. And from what I've read, it's the lowest rated Dynamite that's been in a while. And when you've got public enemy number one of a diehard AEW fan being CM Punk, and what you did was cause a CM Punk chant in the crowd, go back to the drawing board and let's stick to what we got. Let's let CM Punk do his thing in the WWE. If he succeeds, great. If he doesn't, that's on him. Let's focus on what we got and stop worrying about what they're doing over there.
Yeah, I'm going to take a page out of the clip I saw today, Busted Open, of Dave LaGreca and Justin LaBar talking about it. And I will say I will agree with them on some points, as far as there were some good moments at Dynamite last night, and then there were some embarrassing moments. Like they said today in their post, and like I shared with our group chat, I was a little indifferent on how I feel them showing the video. It doesn't change what Punk said in the interview. He said it word for word what happened, and that's what we saw in the video. Again, it does feel Monday Night War like, because WCW was kind of doing the same thing, but it's more so on a fun kind of level that they did it. It wasn't as more so as being bitter and being petty as what AEW did last night. And I'm not blaming any of the performers. I'm not blaming any of the crew or anything. It all comes down to one person. And we talked about him last week, and that's Tony Khan. Tony Khan is the boss. He's got to start acting like the boss. He's got to stop acting like a petty wrestling fan running a company. And I have, like Jason said, we have respect for Tony for starting something like AEW, when there was nothing for me to watch and I wasn't liking WWE's product, I found AEW and fell in love with it. But it's not like what it was when it started almost over 5 years ago. And so seeing what they did last night with that, it kind of felt me. I was like, I don't know what they're doing. This is bad look on them, publicity wise, because they're showing footage of someone who doesn't even work there anymore, who already talked about the situation. For me, it was more so them using it as a petty way to boost the booking of the tag match at the pay-per-view between Young Bucks and FTR, because FTR is supposed friends of Punk and the Young Bucks are these heelish kinds using that. But even then, that's still a petty way to kind of promote the match. And I will touch on the Will Ospreay thing. I'm still a fan of Will Ospreay, but the way that he presented himself last night left a little bitter taste in my mouth. I still have all the respect for Will Ospreay, but there was a different way he could have gone about that without mentioning any of that. He could have used the word grinding in another way. You know, I think Dave LaGreca and Justin LaBar even mentioned it today. It was just embarrassing talking about someone's wife and mother of children of grinding the boss's daughter, you know, and I kind of saw what they were coming from. And so I really wish Will Ospreay would have worded that promo a little differently to take a shot at Triple H and WWE without basically saying, you got your job because you're grinding the boss's daughter. I wish that promo was done a different way. And it came down to Dave LaGreca and Justin LaBar basically saying, you know, there was still good stuff on Dynamite. You know, you still had the Mariah May Anna Jay match was good. You know, the little Tony Storm Thunder Rosa could have gone longer, but it was a good setup for their match. They were saying the beginning of, you know, Swerve attacking Joe at the start of the show. They said that was great. That was great to set up the show and all this stuff. And, you know, the main event was good in the aftermath and all that. But just those two segments were on par of leaving bitter taste in the mouth of AEW fans and basically getting a lot of backlash online from fans. And I can kind of see where that's going. But like Jason said, and like Connor said, I hope AEW can move on from that and just, you know, be like, okay, we're done with that. We saw the response to that. Let's move on. We're done. Let's go. Let's promote a pay-per-view that's coming up in a few weeks, and let's focus on that. So that's pretty much my take on that whole situation.
And I'll add two more things. First off, it's been well reported the last couple of weeks that it's been more of a Nick Khan thing than a Triple H thing, that he's very open. You know, let's just use the term forbidden door. He's very open to working with everybody. And if they can discover, get a working relationship and then they want to cut promos on one another, I am all for it. The second thing I'll add, we'll go back to Will Ospreay. I forgot, there's been so many documentaries and interviews and stuff done over the years that one of the ones that I watched on Triple H, he actually was talking about the whole, not Stephanie as a character, but Stephanie and him behind the scenes. And when people were talking about it, and he said he came into the building one day and Taker pulled him and say, I need to talk to you for a minute. And he's like, oh, hell, what have I done now? And he said, Taker closed the door and he looked at him and said, do you love her? And he said, excuse me?
Mm-hmm.
And he said, do you love her? And he's like, well, yeah, I do. Why? He goes, well, you realize from this day forward that everything you accomplish in this business is going to have that asterisk next to it. And he said, I kind of ducked my head. He goes, then Taker followed up and he goes, but if you love her, none of that matters. Fuck them. And he goes, I smiled, I hugged Mark, and I haven't thought about it since. And so, like I said, let's get some new material.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think what Triple H is doing is good. Again, I mentioned in our group chat, there were some moments on Raw I couldn't really get behind. Like the opening segment with Cody and Rock was very awkward.
And long, very long.
You didn't really need that whole 45 minutes. You could have done that within 15. Then you had a lot of talking segments. There weren't even a lot of matches on TV. And maybe that's just the landscape of pro wrestling today. There's just a lot of promos and a lot of backstage interviews and all this stuff, and there's not much pro wrestling going on in the ring. They usually, for the most part, most of that's saved for all the pay-per-views all these promotions do. But I'd like to see it on a weekly show where there's more wrestling, especially when you have a show like Raw where it's 3 hours. I'd still like to see some of that time filled with wrestling matches and not promos and video packages and all that stuff. The same with Dynamite. As much as I loved, Copeland's promo last week, him opening the show against Penta, was just great. I thought that was one of the better matches to open up a show. And even Dave LaGreca and Justin LaBar laminated that, saying that was a great match. And so I think moving forward, we need to get past this bitterness and this tribalism that we have. Because again, like Jason, you said it, and I've said it weeks in and weeks out on this podcast. I hate the toxicity of wrestling fans. I really do. Sometimes it's hard for me to go on social media on some of my pro wrestling pages and just see people going back and forth that are, what they refer to as E-drones and then AEW marks. Like, listen, it's pro wrestling. It's entertainment for us. It's something that you, Jason, and we grew up on.
The term pro wrestling is back in WWE now.
WWE, yes, and it's something you and I grew up on. We know pro wrestling. We grew up on pro wrestling, and we remember when Vince basically coined the phrase sports entertainment for WWE. And so for us, though, as fans, it's pro wrestling in and out. And so I'm sick of these people saying, your product sucks, my product's better. No, you could be respectful of someone's product without bashing someone personally. And that's another thing. I hate these personal attacks on people. I read somewhere on a post, someone had mentioned that they were talking about TNA and someone in an AEW group like attacked them personally and told them they're stupid for watching that, blah, blah, blah. I was like, why? They watch that. They can watch both. I watch everything. I watch WWE. I watch AEW. I watch TNA. I watch some of the GCW shows on YouTube. I watch OVW on YouTube. Like, I watch every professional wrestling, because I want to keep up with the sport and see what's going on. So I think as a community of wrestling fans, we have to stop this attack on each other and this toxic environment that we present ourselves just because we've been implanted in our brains to like and respect something and not the other, if that makes sense to everybody. So
makes 100%. I don't even know what we were talking about a couple weeks ago, but I told Connor that Raw was my least favorite show of the week simply because it's 3 hours long. I don't poo-poo on it a lot because I don't have an issue with what they do with the promos and stuff. Because again, it goes back to what I grew up on. It was basically a hour or 2 hour long infomercial to get your butt in the seat, and with a couple of squash matches in between. And every once in a while, you might get lucky and get a TV title match, or Flair wrestling in the tag team match in the main event to set up his next opponent. So while I don't have an issue with what they do, because I was used to it, it goes just way too long and it makes it not enjoyable for me. But I am looking forward to Sammy and Gable next week, though. So again, it's a two double-edged sword for me because, like I said, I just think it's too long. I wish they'd take it back to 2 hours. But I am interested to see after Punk's comments a few weeks ago about, hey, my arm might be hurt, but my mouth works just fine. Ask April. And he's like, oh, wait, we're not on Netflix yet. So with that comment right there, I'm interested to see what they start doing once they hit Netflix. It might be nothing. It might just be, him trying to have a little fun, or we might be in store for something new. But it gives us something to look forward to, the next 6-8 months, whatever it's going to be. And, like I said, just like you said, enjoy it all. Watch what you like. And if you don't like something, that's okay. Just don't watch it.
Yep, agreed. Connor, before we move on to tonight's topic, do you have any final words on what we're talking about?
Yeah, I guess I've got a lot of, not probably anyone on here like us, like me, you, Adam, but there's some people that, basically what you guys were just saying, but since CM Punk went to WWE, I've kind of got more interested in WWE, but it's not just CM Punk, I like Chad Gable and Andrade, and Tiffany Stratton's become one of my favorites. Probably too much. But I like watching both AEW and WWE. There was a point where I just watched AEW because WWE was it wasn't really enjoyable. And as we've said many times, if it wasn't for AEW, I probably would have gotten out of wrestling. And I've met Tony Khan. He's a very nice person. I know Adam's met him too. We actually met him the same night. We didn't even know each other at the time. Yeah, I think everyone should. There's a lot of fans that you like WWE, you like AEW. I agree with everything you guys said. And hopefully, I don't have faith in the wrestling community, but hopefully AEW will do better in that. No, that's all I got to say about.
Last point I'll make is if Nick Khan is really open to working with any promotion, it would, in my opinion, behoove Tony Khan to pick up the phone, because with the ratings as what they are, if you saw a couple of WWE guys coming over, it's like Bischoff said one of his biggest regrets was not opening the door and letting DX in the building and I was actually there for that. I was at the WCW show outside the Hampton Coliseum in the Norfolk Scope when DX came in, because WWE was in Hampton and WCW was in Norfolk. I was at the Scope, and me and my wife at the time, we were walking, and I heard this big boom. What the hell was that? Turn around, and this DX on a tank. And I'm like, what's here? But yeah, one of Bischoff's biggest regrets, he says, was not opening the door and letting them come out on his television program. So, you work together a little bit. I'm not saying 12 months a year, but, 4 to 6 week program, cut promos on each other, have a couple of run-ins here and there. You see a couple of WWE wrestlers on AEW programming, is going to bring in the casual fan like WCW was able to do by signing Hall, Nash, turning Hogan heel, and some of the other performers they brought in. It's just and WWE's on fire right now, and I think you can attribute some of that to the creation of AEW, because you go back at them and you look at the WWE product when WCW was on fire. Mm-hmm. Versus when they bought them, and it's almost like within 6 months of them buying WCW, they're like, hey, we won. We don't have to put any effort into this anymore, and it got really boring.
Yep.
And with the creation of AEW, whether people look at it as competition or an alternative, maybe internally they're like, okay, we got to step up our game. There's somebody over there with money that can compete with us now for the performers and such. So whether it's Triple H, whether it's AEW, whether it's a combination of both, if they're willing to work with you, it can do nothing but help you in a cross-promotional, true forbidden door.
Right. And I think that would be a really good thing. I think that would be admirable for both Tony Khan and Paul to just bury this hatchet and say, listen, we can make tons of money. Let's make this a thing. Let's make this a story. Us against you, you guys against us, and let's make it a reality and both succeed. Because like you said, Jason, everybody in both companies, all the wrestlers, they're all friends with each other. They're all through the business together. And so I think that would be very beneficial and money making if both of them can just bury the hatchet, stop being petty. Because again, it is also WWE. WWE subtly, pokes the bear at AEW, knowing that they're a competition. And so I think like what you were saying is it lights a fire under WWE's ass to want to do great, to want to put on hot right now, because they are. And because they know AEW is right there, regardless of people saying it's tanking. The ratings, okay, sure, the ratings are not as great as what they were when they started. But AEW has to write that course. And it all starts with Tony Khan putting his foot down as the boss and making right decisions and bringing in the right people. And if you guys tonight watching, listening, if you guys haven't seen our episode last week about the assessment of Tony Khan, please go listen, watch. We talk about this all the whole show. So we won't dwell on this any longer because I want to get into tonight's topic. We are talking independent wrestling. And for me, independent wrestling, I enjoy. I love it. I think it's a great concept of these smaller promotions, almost i.e. ECW in the 90s, kind of having these guys come in, doing their own thing, having their own stories, having their own matches, and basically being almost like I wouldn't say like a minor league, but a minor league promotion that kind of feeds stars into these bigger league, companies like an AEW or WWE or hell, even a TNA. I will say TNA is now starting to get up there. I think TNA is up there as a number 3 right now with WWE, AEW, and TNA as the big 3. So I kind of want to start the show off tonight with you guys. Outside of the big shows, big promotions, which are WWE, AEW, TNA, do you guys have any memories of going to any independent wrestling shows? Being pro wrestling fans, Connor, I'll start with you.
Oh God, do I have stories? I've seen it all. I've been to there was a show like I told everyone I used to be a referee. I was part of the booking team, but before that, going to shows. I remember this one time. It was the match was the fans bring the weapons, so it kind of got crazy. And they used my shoe as a weapon, believe it or not. It was there's some things I've seen in independent wrestling. I've seen I was like 3 years old and I don't even remember it. Was Road Dogg, and I was in the ring and whatever. It was my birthday, I guess. I don't know. I have a picture of it. Yeah, I got a lot of memories. I've seen fans get hit with weapons because they try to hit wrestlers. I've seen a lot of stuff, but I've seen a lot of really good stuff in independent wrestling. I've seen 2 steel cage matches, like like an actual like War Games match, but independent wrestling. I've gotten to know a lot of people through independent wrestling. But for me, outside of like AEW and WWE and stuff like that, if I watch anything, really I just watch. I would say OVW. Sometimes I watch that. I guess you would consider that an indie promotion. I mean, they are on TV somewhat, but I like watching OVW. If anyone does not know, John Cena, Brock Lesnar, Batista, all those big names came from OVW, and they have a lot of good wrestlers to this day. If anyone hasn't watched the Netflix series Wrestlers, they have what's her name, Holly Hadray, is that her name?
I know which one you're talking about. I was going to bring her up too, but no, you're 100% right.
Yeah, she
Hollywood Haley is what she went.
That's her. Yes, she actually made an appearance on AEW one night.
She did. Yes,
she's been on Ring of Honor, AEW. I know she said in an interview that she had gotten contacted by WWE for a tryout. I don't know if that's happened or not, but I mean that could be another big star for OVW. They got Jesse Goddard, who's in TNA. Like when I was younger, I just went to any kind of wrestling, really. Like as a kid, I mean, you don't really think about, who's on the card. Like I just went for going. And I had a lot of fun going to a lot of independent shows. Yeah, I guess that's my comment on that.
Yeah. Jason, I know you said you won't know a lot, but I mean, what's the earliest wrestling show you remember going to that wasn't a big promotion?
Oh God, I was back in my 20s. It wasn't a promotion. It was just I'm sure they probably billed it as something, but I'd met the Rock and Roll Express on several occasions and I was very young and they were going to be there. And my first wife was with me. I said, all right, come on, let's go speak. And she's like, don't get beat up. I'm like, I really don't. She goes, no, you don't. And I walked up, Robert was standing there and I went up and put my arm around him. I said, what's up, man? And he turned around and goes, oh, how you been? And he started, I'm like, who's this little dude in the ring? And he's like, oh, that's my number 1 student. I said, all right, let me take my foot out of my mouth. But it was at the Chesterfield County Fairgrounds. And, and I've seen a few of those, working in the bars. One of the guys we hired, his name was Bill. Wrestled under the term Redneck Billy Redwood in MCW. And he was actually recovering from the same neck surgery Kurt Angle had, but he needed some money while he was recovering. So we had a lot of fun with that, playing some wrestling themes, and me and him would do a lot of the different DX skits out there with the music and stuff. But he and I went to a couple of the MCW shows. I went down there. He introduced me to a lot of different people. But that's really about it as far as true independent wrestling shows that I've been to. Most of the ones that I've gone to or look to go to, or especially now because I really don't get out of the house a whole lot, but are just the bigger shows, like going to Greensboro to see Sting. If that hadn't been Sting's last match, I probably wouldn't have went. If something comes around close, I mean, depending on who's going to be there, I might try to make it out. I wished Ohio Valley, when you talk about them, I'm not really sure what Tony's plans for Ring of Honor are. It just kind of seems like it's floating a little bit right now. And my hopes was, maybe I'm the only one, but I was really hoping when he acquired Ring of Honor, he would keep the mystique of it and not film it after a Dynamite or a Collision when half the audience has already left, and kind of turn it into an NXT platform, put it in somewhere that holds 500 to 1,000 people, kind of like the old ECW feel or the NXT feel, however you want to look at it, and really start training those guys. And if that's not what he wants to do with it, with Al Snow training down in OVW and now Mickie James training their women's wrestlers, it really gets those guys and girls ready for AEW or WWE. When they come up, they've already had some television experience, not just, house show experience. And I think that's one thing that the territory system always provided. By the time those guys got to, Crockett being, a number 2 or the WWF being number 1, all those territories those guys and girls had been able to go through, it gave them the time to work with an audience, see what worked, see what didn't work. They were always on local TV, no matter what territory they went to. So by the time they got there, they had pretty much perfected their craft. And I think that's one thing that's missing, that, maybe an MLW or, TNA or even Tony with Ring of Honor or OVW could try to possibly recreate and have these guys and girls, ready for the mainstream, instead of being, called up before they're ready and having the toxicity come out of, people talking about how bad their match was and attacking them on social media. And, for as much as I love with this stuff, there's just a lot of social media that I really don't like. And, I know that's off topic, but I'd like to see more. I do not get TNA here. I don't even know if MLW is still on TV. I used to watch that when, that's when Tony first came back and started doing some commentating with those guys. They brought Cornette in for a little bit. I know, and they're supposed to be doing something with NWA on CW. I don't know if that started already. But if it does, I'll watch it. I don't really get on the computer to watch a lot of TV per se. I'll use either, the smart TV or the cable box, and, the quickest access is what I normally go to. But a lot of it, as much as I still watch these days, I stay busy. So a lot of it's kind of on in the background, and I'll have to rewind something. But oh, what was that? And I just like to, I like to see more of it, and kind of maybe in a more polished way now that we've got so much on TV.
Yeah, I think the one thing I like about these smaller promotions, I think the nice thing is they're able to get stars from bigger promotions to come down. Mainly TNA, AEW stars go down and go to these smaller promotions because their contracts allow them to. Where WWE, they're very lenient on where wrestlers can go. I mean, I know we just recently had Shayna Baszler go to one of these other independent shows. I keep forgetting which one it was, but she just
it was the Bloodsport thing for Josh Barnett.
Thank you. With Josh Barnett. Thank you. Yeah. So, they have that going. But I think my earliest memory of a pro independent show was actually, you can see the logo behind me. It's AEW. It's based in Chicago. It's all God, I keep forgetting. All American Wrestling. There it is. I couldn't remember it. I had a blank. All American Wrestling. And I remember the one show that I went to. It was at a bar near Chicago area, just outside of the city. And the one match I was just enthralled by, and this was even before he was signed with WWE, was Matt Riddle versus Mike Elgin. And Mike Elgin, big, bulky guy, huge guy. Think Jake something, but like 50 pounds and just a brute. And so this match went on for like 25, 30 minutes. Like, it was a barn burner, and it was so good. And at the time, I had just stopped watching WWE because I'm like, I need a break from this. I'm not entertained by it anymore. So I want to go see some independent shows. And I saw AAW, and I was just enthralled with it. I loved it. I thought it was really cool. Then I went to another independent show. I think it was still AAW again. At this time, they did it at a brewery. They hosted the show at a brewery, which was really cool. They used their environment and everything. It was really awesome. But just seeing some of the wrestlers there and then realizing, wow, some of these guys are going to be awesome, if they make it to the big leagues. And remember one show I went to, it was actually Ruby Soho back when she was doing her Heidi Lovelace character in the Independence. She was on this one show that I went to at a bar too. So I've been to like 3 independent shows in Chicago that wasn't, WWE or TNA. It was just independent company. And it was just so crazy to see all these wrestlers and just seeing where they're going. But to go back to OVW, I think OVW is another one that I truly enjoy. I mean, I watch their YouTube, the OVW Rise. That's always, I think that's what the show's called. But I mean, look at their roster too. They still have wrestlers there that are part of other companies. I mean, hell, their champion's EC3, so, and then their women's champion is Layla Gray, who's technically with AEW. So, but their whole roster is really cool. I like their rosters and the way that they do their shows. I mean, especially the show, if you watched it, the Wrestlers show, on Netflix, and just basically seeing them deciding to do a tour. I think that was a really cool idea. And I actually think they are coming to Nashville soon, I think, or I think it's like close by here. And I was very debating on going. But if I can find it, they're supposed to come here.
I believe you tagged me in it.
What's up?
I believe you tagged me in it yesterday.
Yes, I did. I did. So I think OVW is another one of those promotions that, they've got a really good person in charge of it with Al Snow, who's got a really good mind for the business. So I think with some of those companies, I think it's really cool to see stars from like TNA and AEW go down there and work with those stars to kind of build them up and get them ready, and work with them and show them guidance with those people that, like OVW. I mean, most of those people, like what's his name? Cash has been at OVW for a long time. He's one of their, main guys that has been part of their roster for a very long time. And so, I think what's really cool is that he's kind of been a leader. Cash Flow. Thank you. Yeah. Cash Flow has been with OVW for so long that he's kind of become a leader, a locker room leader there. And so, just to see him to maybe even, and I believe he appeared as an enhancement talent on AEW, I believe one night too, in a tag match. And so just to kind of see that, it's just really exciting. But, something that really touches that kind of reflects to me is you look at a company like WWE with their developmental, the NXT. A lot of those people that are coming through are just athletes. They never did independent wrestling. They just recruit athletes and be like, hey, come on through. I mean, for questions like you guys, back in, and Jason, you'll remember this. I mean, back in the early days, WCW had the power plant, training facility, and train their wrestlers to go through all this before they even come on TV and do all that. And then obviously WWE initially had the Performance Center, but now with these, these athletes coming through, they're putting them in Performance Center, but then putting them on, on NXT. Do you guys think that a lot of these athletes coming through these companies, do you think they're missing out on more time on independent wrestling and kind of getting their licks in and kind of like paying their dues on independent wrestling before getting shoved right into the big leagues?
Well, I'll tell you, and this is going to predate the power plant. If you go back in the annals of history, and 2 off the top of my head, one did not wrestle, but Jim Ross. First thing he ever did in the business was referee. Jake Roberts started off as a referee, and there's been several of them. They started off and gradually kind of made their way from the ring crew to the referee X, Y, Z, you know, and it taught them every aspect of the business. So they would know, like if they're in the ring, they would know where the referee should be, what they should be doing and why. And I think that's kind of what's missing today with when you bring in these top caliber athletes. And, you know, you remember you remember Ruby Soho before she got her start. When Bill took me to the MLW show, I feel bad because I'm sure there was probably some guys and girls that were on that show that made it. What I remember, like one of the first things I remember was we were standing there and Sherry Martel came in. She was on the show that night wrestling one of the girls from Maryland Championship Wrestling, MCW, excuse me, not MLW. But Bill walked up. He goes, "Hey man, did you go speak to Sherry yet?" I'm like, "No, dude, I'm not gonna mess with her. Everybody's around her." He was like, "It's disrespectful if you don't go say hi to Sherry." Oh, and she was so gracious. I walked over. "Hey Sherry, I'm Jason. Nice to meet you." And she was so gracious. Leaned over and gave me a hug, kissed me on the cheek. And later that night, they brought out Bobby Eaton and gave him a Lifetime Achievement Award. Shane Douglas was a surprise. They had kept locked up somewhere all day, and he ran in on the main event. And Ricky Morton was there. He was had a table. He had his gimmick table set up and actually asked me to watch it while he walked outside to smoke a cigarette. And so I don't remember the people that, Mickey was there, of course. It's when she was wrestling in MCW. Saw her, talked to her for a little bit. But I think that's the one thing that's missing is, when these guys and girls come up now, when you get somebody, when you get a Tiffany Stratton who has made such great waves in 2 years from training to NXT to now the main roster, there's 10 other ones that don't have her talent and need a lot more time. And the indies will give you that. It doesn't quite give you what the territory system did because, damn near every state had a territory back in those days. So it doesn't give you that ability to go somewhere, 60, 70 different places to go. But I think if you really want to do this, and I mean, I'm not mad at anybody if they want to sign a WB contract and make six figures because they've never had nothing from the get-go. I'm not throwing blame at them. But I think the indies, you can at least, you won't hone your TV skills, but you can still see kind of what your moveset is that will work in front of an audience, what they pop to, what they don't. And, have some sort of idea once you get there of something to build on versus starting from scratch.
Yeah. Connor, how about your thoughts about some of these just natural athletes that are just going straight to the pros to basically train at their performance center and then get thrown right into the TV?
There's two ways you can look at it. Tiffany Stratton, that's how she came to WWE. She never was, a wrestler before WWE. There's a few of them. What's his name? He's in NXT. Oba Femi. I don't know if you guys know who that is.
Yep.
Those two, for example, you could tell they've really taken the craft seriously. Especially Tiffany Stratton. If WWE is the place where if you're going to learn how to be a wrestler, it's the best place you're ever going to do it in the entire world because you're getting coached by William Regal, all these legends and people who's been in the business for years. Occasionally they have I know CM Punk's been over there and they have all these people. If it's someone they're just coming in and they don't really care about wrestling. They just want to be here to make some money. I feel like the right way to do it is someone like Tiffany Stratton, who really had a really interest in the craft that she was doing, and she really took it seriously. Like Logan Paul, he didn't go through that specific thing in NXT, whatever, but you can tell that he has the drive to want to be a wrestler, and he actually wants to take part in this. There's nothing wrong with going to the independents and scratching and clawing your way to the WWE. Some people aren't. I don't even know how you get into that. How that process goes from, an athlete to getting into WWE. I know they have the NIL. I don't know what it stands for. Their whole program. But sometimes it's hard to get noticed like that. You really, really got to stand out. So, people like we mentioned her earlier, Holly J, whatever her name is. She's
Haley J.
Yeah, her see, her mom is Tracy Mother's daughter. I don't know if anyone knew that. But someone like her, like she really is scratching and clawing her way through the indies and could go to the WWE someday. It depends on how you look at it. If I just feel like it'd be really hard to get noticed coming from an athlete. You really got to stand out. But there's both pros and cons to each side you want to take. If you're really like 100% sure that this is what you want to do, then going straight to WWE, nothing wrong with that. And there's nothing wrong with starting with the indies as well. Because there's a lot of things you can learn in the independents that sometimes you can't learn just going straight on. Like there's a lot of like simple things that you never would think of that you can learn advice from, like traveling to independent shows. And yeah, it depends on the way you look at it. Like there's been some really talented people that come through there. As I said, top two, Tiffany Stratton and Oba Femi. But I feel like as long as you have the drive to want to be a wrestler and you want to put the time and effort into it, then it's just like an independent wrestler. You're just taking a different route.
Yeah, and the NIL, it's name, image, likeness, to answer your question of what it stands for. So, Jason, did you want to jump in?
Oh no, I was going to answer that for him too. But the only thing that I'll say that that I like with the indies that I still like about having them there, it's the same thing. It goes back to what I was talking about with the territory system. If you go straight to WWE or AEW now, being on the main stage, being on national television, and you bomb, you're probably not getting another chance. But back in the territory days, if you bombed in Florida, you could go to Georgia, nobody ever saw you. You could go to Carolina, nobody's ever saw you, and keep working on that. Instead of getting on national television and just. I mean, if they hadn't put Kane under a mask and people had saw that was Isaac Yankem DDS, that gimmick would have never worked. If they would have seen who that was. And then he finally took the mask off and looked nothing like, what he had used to. And most people, except for people like us, had forgotten about Isaac Yankem DDS. So like I said, I mean, from what I understand, NXT also has, not NXT, but the Performance Center, like Tiffany Stratton came in and did a tryout. She was in a class of like 24 people that came in and did a tryout at the Performance Center, and she was one chosen out of that class for them to give the deal to and start training. So that's another way they do it that way as well. So again, like I said, unless you're that athletically gifted, if you're somebody that's, your athletics are okay, but you can tell a good story, which can like 9 times out of 10 make a better wrestler than somebody that's super athletic, then, work on your craft, and one day, keep working, and one day you'll get there.
Yeah, and kind of branching off from what you were saying, Jason, about the beauty of territories and someone doing so bad in one territory, they can just go to another and reinvent themselves. One thing we're seeing today, and I just mentioned some of the names, like I said, EC3, who's been on TNA, WWE, even try to start his own wrestling promotion, Control Your Narrative, is the champion in OVW. Layla Gray is down there from AEW. You've got Blake Christian
too, or no?
What's up?
Is he still the NWA champion too, or no?
I believe so. I think he's double champion right now. He's OVW champion and NWA champion. And then you also have someone like Blake Christian, who just performs both at, GCW. He performs at, he's done a couple of independent shows with, AAW. He's done it with OVW, So to go on that, we go on to people that are in the big leagues. And like I said, I've considered 3 of them as TNA, WWE, AEW. And some of these guys, some of these pros that have been with those companies are even just going to independent shows, kind of just still making their craft better and seeing if they can do something different and kind of also lead that group of people in those promotions to kind of improve. I mean, what are your guys' thoughts on some of these these pros, these veterans, I couldn't think of the word, the veterans that have been in the big leagues going down to these smaller promotions as either just because the promoters were like, we need some good names to come in, do some shows so we can make money, and B, we can get them to come down here and work with our, our new people and some of the people that have been here for a while. I mean, how do you guys, feel about it?
I know from being on a booking team, like that's what not everyone can do that. Like we booked Boogeyman. He's not gonna get in the ring and teach nobody anything because he doesn't know. Like I hate to do this, but from his words, he's not a wrestler. He's an entertainer. So, but he's a pretty big name, and he can draw in a lot of people. Like for a Halloween show, you have Boogeyman, and you're gonna give out candy and stuff, and you have like that packed the house that night. But I remember we got a Carlito or Chris Masters, and they would really get in the ring and work with a lot of people. Seminars. That's what a lot of wrestling schools do these days. OVW does it quite a bit. Like you'll see a lot. Like they'll charge like maybe $50. Sometimes you gotta at least have 2 years of experience. Some do that, some don't. Some require you to have at least a few years of experience. And then you pay like a small fee, and then you get to be in a seminar with whoever it may be, from Chris Masters to, maybe EC3. If I was an indie wrestler, I would probably take advantage of that. Like the most knowledge I could get, I would take it all in. Even Eugene, I talked to him about that. He does a lot of seminars and stuff. He's a very, very good coach. If anyone goes on YouTube and watches his seminars, he's a very, very good coach. He would be a very good asset to any company, AEW, WWE. I know his gimmick is what it was, but if you really watch his stuff, he's a very good person to get coached by. Yeah, I think that's a really good thing in wrestling, that some people will really take the time and try to coach a lot of these younger wrestlers.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it this way. If you know what you're getting, like with what he said about the Boogeyman, yeah. Take advantage of, okay, well, he's not going to teach me anything, but he's going to draw people to the, he's going to draw eyes on the product, and go out there as a promoter and make sure that your guys and girls go out there and put on the best possible show they can. Because, it's been said, Ted DiBiase, for as good as he was in his day, everybody talked about what great psychology he had and, how good he was in the ring and telling his story. So he could go out there and do it, but he could not explain to you how he did it. He was not good at conveying, what he did out there, to the younger guys. And that's why he never worked out as an agent. They tried it a couple of times and, just, he couldn't convey what he knew how to do to other people. And I mean, and again, you if you listen close enough, whether it's a Boogeyman or anybody else, if you listen close enough, there's always a tidbit of knowledge you can take from them, good, bad, or indifferent. And, like I said, promoters, if you're paying that money, make sure that your guys and girls are ready to go that night and draw those people back to the building for another show, that you don't have one of those big names on. Take advantage of it every possible way you can. You're spending the money to bring them in, make it worth your while.
Yeah, no, I think for me, I see it as kind of three things with these veterans from these other promotions going down there. A, it's like you said, Jason, getting eyes on the product and people to buy tickets to the show. If you promote, these people are coming to your show and either going to be appearing or even performing at the show. B, it's a chance for them to come down and work with some of those, rookies that are just getting into the pro wrestling business, that are with that promotion, that, hey, I can take guidance from this. They can watch my match. They can tell me what I'm doing wrong, what I'm doing right. And three, I think it's just also the veterans going down to another promotion to kind of hone in on their craft a bit. It doesn't matter. I mean, we say it for a lot of people in different careers, like for me, like when I worked in warehouses for about 10 years, and doing forklift, I'd go in different places and kind of learning different forklifts and kind of getting on a forklift and kind of honing my craft and realizing, how do I use these controls? How do these work? It's different from this kind of forklift. Or, someone who is a boxer, they can go, they train at different, gyms with different trainers. And they're like, what can I do to hone in on my talent? I see that with the pros too, and the veterans going to these smaller promotions. They're making some money. Yeah. But they're also doing what they love. You look at someone, and I brought his name up, Blake Christian. This is one kid that I love watching on the independents and even TNA. This kid's so talented, and he does it all. If anybody hasn't watched any of Blake Christian's matches or some of his stuff, I highly recommend you have to watch it. Some of his match with, I think he had a few matches with Gringo Loco, and that guy's awesome too. For the size that he is, some of the stuff he can do in the ring is just pure madness. But someone like a Blake Christian has appeared, and I looked up, he has appeared in a lot of independent companies, despite being with TNA. And so it's amazing how much work he gets to do and hone in on, and he gets to have these matches. And so I see it also as some of these people that are fans of these independent promotions kind of see it as, oh my God, we could see a dream match of this person from this big promotion coming in and working with our person. Like I said, someone like, like a EC3 coming down and working with a Cash Flow. Cash Flow is a big guy, a big fan favorite in OVW. He can work a match against EC3. People will be like, dude, that's cool. We get to see this match. So I think that's also a brilliant way to kind of do that too, because we talk about it as, fans of the big promotions of dream matches. We're going to get these dream matches in, this WWE or AEW or TNA. But in these independent companies, they got their people, so when you bring a pro down there, you're like, oh, dude, I would love to see this guy from this company wrestle our guy in our company, so I see that as kind of like a gift to the fans in that aspect.
Yeah, another thing I'll say too, I've heard Bruce Pritchard talk about it previously in his podcast, and I'm sure AEW gets, just as many videotapes as WWE does now on guys and girls, sending them their stuff and their promo material. And Bruce Pritchard, talked about they would get thousands of tapes from, aspiring wrestlers to look at. And it's like, how do you go through them? And one of the couple of people they signed, and I cannot think of them off the top of my head, was, I watched their tape because such and such told me I needed to check it out. Hey, they sent you a tape. Make sure you look at it. And so that's another way. Just because these guys and girls aren't in WWE or AEW anymore, they still know people. And, if you impress them enough, they're liable to send a text message for you. Hey, check this tape out. So like I said, the dream matches, but you use it for everything it's worth. Don't half-ass nothing.
Yeah, Connor, what's your take on that too, with all these dream matches that these independent promotions get to see these big stars from other promotions coming down to do?
Yeah, no, Nick Aldis was the NWA World Champion at the time. I would see a lot of he would go just anywhere. I remember I went to a show in Missouri. I can't remember where it was at, but it was when Harley Race was still alive. I guess this was his promotion that he ran, I guess. I don't know what he had in it, but his son's a wrestler. He's not really that big of a name, but in that area, he's, the biggest thing ever. And like their dream match was Harley Race's son versus Nick Aldis for the NWA World Champion. And that was, I got to see it live, and it was a really good match. I actually thought Nick Aldis was going to lose there for a minute. But something like that is what, independent wrestling, that's a pretty dream match. Even when I referred to it a lot, but when I was on the booking team, Moose came in. He's in TNA, if anyone doesn't know. We had this guy, he was the world champion, Charles Ray. He was a big dude, like the same size as Moose, probably bigger than Moose, I don't know. But that's something that the fans would always talk about, like, oh, this guy Moose on Impact, he's pretty big. I like to see him against Charles Ray. And, you just people kept on talking about it. So when we did it, it was a packed house. And a lot of people loved it, I'm assuming, because the place was packed, so they had to have loved it. But yeah, I've been a part of a lot of stuff like that. It's very interesting. Like if you go to a independent show like regularly, and you know who these guys are, and you think about dream matches, and they actually happen. It's really fun to see and be in attendance for.
Yeah, I think it's really exciting. Especially for people that, can't, and I say it, but can't afford to go to like a big WWE show or a TNA show or a AEW show, but they want to check out pro wrestling. It's so nice that they can able to go see maybe an independent promotion that's in their town or around their area to go and be like, hey, this is really cool to see. Like, I don't get to see the big names, but I get to see some of this stuff going on. And so I love the fact that these pros still go to these small companies. But, as we're talking about these wrestlers in these companies, I guess the question to ponder too is if you guys keep up with some of the promotions. I mean, what are some of the names? I mean, we've mentioned a few of them, but what are some names that you've heard of in the independent scene that you either saw a couple of their matches online or you've heard about them and you kind of want to see them make it to the big league? Does any names come up for you guys?
For me, there's like a whole class of wrestlers that I helped book. And there's one name, I never got the chance to book him, but I feel like he's really good. And I don't know he's a bigger guy. He's Shane Mercer. I don't know if anyone knows who he is.
Mm-hmm.
Golly, some of the moves that this dude can do, he does like so quickly. Like him against Braun Breaker would be really, really good. Like him against some of the big guys. I know these people are privileged to be in the business, but as my background, Jacob Fatu and Zilla Fatu. Zilla Fatu is the son of Umaga. They're pretty privileged to be in this business. Like it won't take, as long as they have the skill, they'll be in WWE. But Jacob Fatu is really, really good. I've seen his stuff in MLW. He does a moonsault off a steel cage, and he's a pretty big dude. Like someone like that, you wouldn't normally think should be able to do that. Warhorse, he's kind of fallen off the face of the earth a little bit, but he's still really good in the ring. He came on AEW. He went against Cody Rhodes in the TNT Championship Open Challenge. If anyone doesn't know who this person is, Sage Phillips. I've had the privilege of refereeing his matches, booking his matches. I've basically done everything with him. He reminds me so much of Johnny Gargano. He's very, very, very good in the ring, very good technical wrestler. Everything he does has a purpose. I would really like to see him against Johnny Gargano. Like, I swear, he looks just like Johnny Gargano. Like, if all you gotta do is look him up. He looks just like him, wrestles like him, talks like him, acts like him. I could sit here all night and tell you people that should make it. I'll give you one more. Anthony how do you pronounce his last name? Anthony Tatelli. I believe that's how you pronounce his name. He's really, really good in the ring. He reminds me a little bit of Roman Reigns a little bit, but just some more fast-paced Roman Reigns. There's a lot of good independent people out there, but the one I recommend the most is Sage Phillips. He's really, really good.
Yeah. How about you, Jason? Are there names that you've been hearing out there on the independent scene that you're like, I kind of see this person kind of make it up to the big leagues?
No, see, that's kind of where I said I'd have to, go with y'all two on this one because I just hadn't seen a lot. Of course, the one name I see all the time is somebody we've already seen there, which is Cardona. He's all over the place with Indies. I'll piggyback on what Connor was saying with the Fatus. And I could be wrong, but I just, we know The Rock's going to be around for a while, in and out. From what I understand, his next appearance will be around SummerSlam time. And with him coming in and out, Roman's made a social media post about, okay, today we mourn, yesterday we mourned, today we start again. With the Fatus coming in, with Jacob Fatu for now, I think the bloodline storyline, whether we like it or not, and I personally have, I mean, it got stale there for a little bit, but I think we're just still in the beginning of it. I think with all these guys and girls that are still wrestling part of the family, that I think Roman's going to come back to a huge babyface push is what I think, whenever he decides to come back. And you're going to see the bloodline split. And I think it'll be interesting if there's more of them out there. And like Connor was saying, if Zilla can put on a little bit more weight and bring him in, and, I'm sure there's a couple more out there somewhere, it could make a real interesting, be real interesting to see how they do that storyline when they bring some of these guys in.
Go ahead, Connor.
I was going to say, you guys know WOW, Women of Wrestling,
Yes.
right on CW. Speaking of the Samoans, I actually have the Tonga twins. They're the daughters of Haku. Two more Samoans. And also, WWE's bringing in Tama Tonga. He's the son of Haku Ming, and apparently they consider him family. The Haku and all them. Yeah, I just want to throw that out there. Like, there's a lot of. I don't think there will ever not be a Samoan in wrestling. The Usos have sons. They'll be wrestling pretty soon. Roman Reigns has more daughters. Roman Reigns. I mean, that family will never stop. I mean, imagine going to their family reunion, like all the wrestlers, and I mean, Roman Reigns over there. The Rock, he's eating away. Like, that's just a royalty family that will probably never disappear in wrestling.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think you're going to see a lot of the the Anoa Fatu family members that are in the independents now make their way up to WWE at some point. I mean, a few of them, I think a few relatives are also in New Japan right now as well. So for me, I think there's a couple names out there that I'd like to see either in AEW or TNA. Maybe, hell, if they can make it to WWE, great. But I don't know. But I can see them in either AEW or TNA. Adam Revolver from OVW. I think he's a name everybody needs to check out. He's very talented. I love his character. Obviously, someone like EC3, I definitely see it needs to be back on the main scene. I actually do enjoy his character quite a bit. And then, God, what was the other name? Jack Vaughn in OVW. I know I'm pulling a lot of OVW guys, but I watch a lot of OVW on YouTube. And Jack Vaughn, I don't know what about him. I follow him on social media. He's the funniest guy I've ever seen. Like his videos show you like how different pro wrestlers take a clothesline or how different pro wrestlers run the ropes. And it's so funny. It's probably some of the funniest thing I've ever seen. And so, I mean, some of them I like to see on the big leagues. Women, obviously, I love to see Hollywood Haley J, come back and make it somewhere, whether it's TNA or AEW, WWE. I know she was doing a lot of stuff with WOW. Her and her mom were doing a lot of tag team stuff with that promotion. So I'd like to see her, kind of make it a little bigger. And so those are just some of the names in the independent scene that I'd actually like to see, like, kind of make it in the big leagues. So as we're winding down here, we're getting to the hour and 7 minutes. And again, I wasn't going to try to make this a long episode, but is there a promotion that is not here in the States, but a promotion that you enjoy watching, that some of the, like, it could be, from a Mexico promotion or Europe promotion, whatever, Japan. Is there a promotion out there that's not really big in the States, but you guys can think that if they just show it here in the States, I think a lot of people would enjoy it?
For me, when I was kind of getting out of WWE in 2018, there was one promotion which WWE basically took over and took all their people, but they probably still got some really good ones. ICW, Insane Championship Wrestling. Triple H, that's where Pete Dunne started out, I think, because Triple H made a surprise appearance there, and that's when he signed Pete Dunne to NXT UK. A lot of other people, Trent Seven, Tyler Bate, a lot of people came out of there. I haven't watched them in a while, but if they had someone like Pete Dunne out there, I'm pretty sure they got some really good wrestlers still. So Insane Championship Wrestling. I believe they're in the UK or somewhere. They're sort of known. I know they're on Fight TV. That's how I discovered them. It's not out in the States, but Reality of Wrestling. Booker T's training school. He actually trained quite a few people who's in AEW and WWE. Roxanne Perez is one of them, current NXT Women's Champion. But out of the United States, I definitely recommend Insane Championship Wrestling.
Yeah. What about you, Jason? Are there any promotions outside the States that you could think of that you've seen a couple of matches? You're like, oh, cool. I think people in American wrestling fans would enjoy this.
I wish New Japan could actually get a better TV deal. I think if they did that, people, you might have a bigger audience, more receptive to the way AEW does things. It might warm them up a little bit for what Tony's trying to kind of pull off over there, in my opinion. And, and sometimes you'll see people you hadn't seen in a while, you want to go back, in the 90s and watch some of that New Japan stuff with Doc and Gordy and some, Vader before he came stateside. Vader was never nothing in the U.S., but, Bull Power Leon White before he went to New Japan and got that Vader gimmick. So there's a lot of, there's stars that come out of there if you watch close enough, and, the matches that don't, technically produce stars in the U.S., they're still good quality matches. And the Japanese style, even though it has changed over the years, they still beat the hell out of each other over there. So, I think New Japan could get a lot of watchers if they got on the right channel.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think because of the working relationship AEW and New Japan have, I think it would be great to see New Japan on a channel somewhere in the States, if not somewhere streaming, with the new streaming services going on. Personally, for me, I've been enjoying a lot of the CMLL wrestling going on. I've been enjoying a lot of the AAA that I've watched online. For me, I don't know what it is about AAA, Lucha Libre, the Mexican wrestling style. I'm enthralled by it. I love watching it, but it's not just like the flying and all that from little like the little wrestlers, but some of the big wrestlers in that promotion will fly. And, that's where a lot of where Lucha Underground was going on. That's where they got a lot of their wrestlers from, was from AAA or CMLL. You see a lot of those guys over there kind of doing their own thing now that Lucha Underground's not around. Because I loved Lucha Underground. And nobody has ever seen it, you guys can watch it. Trying to figure out what streaming service has it. I think either Hulu or Amazon Prime has it.
I know they were on Netflix at one point. But
they were on Netflix, yeah. But I highly recommend anyone that is looking for something awesome is watch Lucha Underground. It's weird because it's almost like reality TV mixed with pro wrestling, but it's very entertaining. They have like these little side videos of like weird stuff going on. I think I remember one thing going on was what's his name? London. Paul London was in this weird group, and like they had to follow the rabbit or something like that. It was like the weirdest thing, but I loved it, so, and it was so cool to just see Paul London doing something, because I hadn't seen him in a long time. I was like, oh, dude, this character is awesome for Paul London. He's like a mysterious, like weird Willy Wonka, and I freaking love it. So if you haven't seen Lucha Underground, highly recommend it. But yeah, no, some of those promotions I definitely would like to see in the States and kind of present it to American audiences. But out of that, I think pretty much what we can all agree on is that with independent wrestling, I don't think without independent wrestling today, we wouldn't have these interesting names coming through the independent scene and come into these big league promotions like a TNA, AEW, WWE. I mean, because you got to think about it. A lot of these WWE had a lot of the performance centers. So a lot of those people were probably independent wrestlers before they decided to do these professional athletes to come through. They were going after the professional wrestlers and other promotions, kind of following the lead that Vince McMahon did, kind of taking other wrestlers from other territories and bringing them over and making millions of dollars on them, So and I think AEW is another one that I see that, I know if we mention it, it wouldn't hurt for them to make a developmental, school to get those people, certain people ready to come through, or even send some of their some of their veterans or some of the people that they've had since day one down there to, kind of practice and, train and everything. So, to prevent injury and all that stuff. TNA, what's that, Connor?
Marina Shafir will be very good in development.
There it is. I was waiting for it. I was like, it's got to be one tonight about Marina.
That would be perfect for her. Maybe learn something or two.
Well, you'd think she'd learn something from her husband over time, but
Yeah, from Roderick.
I don't think he's very entertaining, but he can wrestle his ass off.
I wonder if he ever goes home angry and she's home and he just goes, Marina! Marina!
Yeah, you're talking about the bigger guys wrestling the lucha style. You go back to TNA when it first started. That's really what got them their cult following, was the No Limit X division. Because Joe was wrestling in the X division. He wasn't in the world title picture yet. You had some guy that I have no idea who was under the mask, but His fat ass is Mr. X.
Yep.
Wrestling under the so you got a lot of bigger guys wrestling.
Homicide. Homicide
Yeah,
would fly all over the ring in TNA, man.
Hernandez as well, big as he was. But yeah, the No Limit X division was, what got eyes on the TNA product. So, and they got a lot of that from Mexico.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed all that. But I think we can all agree that I think with independent wrestling, we talk about this whole direction of pros, of the pro leagues, the big leagues like WWE, TNA, AEW, but we don't really focus on independents and some of the talent that's down there that are not making a lot of money, aren't on TV, that they're not big names. They're kind of grinding, like the old days that all those guys used to do. They had to travel the road to different shows and they had to pay for their own hotels, blah, blah, blah. These guys are doing it on the independents, just trying to still grind it out. And I think that's why I wanted to talk about it tonight, because I feel like we talk a lot about the big leagues, but we never talk about the people that are still riding and grinding it out in the independents and hurting themselves just so they can make a big contract when it gets to the pros. But before we finish up here, I'll go back to each of you guys. Is there any other comments or things you want to talk about as far as our conversation tonight about independent wrestling and your thoughts on the whole independent wrestling promotions?
I'll just finish it and wrap it up with this on my part. If there's an independent show and you're a wrestling fan and not a toxic tribalist, if you're a true pro wrestling fan and a show comes to a high school gym or a VFW or a brewery or an armory, go support it. Pay the money. Go see the guys and the girls. If you see somebody you like, take a picture with that skinny kid, because in 5-10 years you might have a Polaroid with the next Roman Reigns or Will Ospreay or Sasha Banks, Charlotte Flair, Mercedes, excuse me. Whoever. You could name a ton of them. You never know who you might see, getting their feet wet. So if you're a pro wrestling fan, go support it.
Yeah, Connor, any words about independent wrestling?
Yeah, I agree with that. Like Jason said, last independent show I went to was in Bolivar, Tennessee, and Jimmy Hart was there and Santino Marella in a high school gym. I don't really go in. Like there was some people that they go to it to be a tribalism fan, but for that it was really like old school mindset. Like none of those people, like they watched AEW or WWE, but they thought it was all real. Like a lot of these older people, like there was this one guy that there was a heel come out and he had a chain and the dude was literally about to beat up this one wrestler. Like people would really take it serious, and like that's what I like about going to old school independent shows, because it feels that nostalgic again. Like and like I miss those days where you didn't know faces and heels and you didn't know what was going to happen. You just watched it for enjoying it. And I agree. If you see an independent show, sometimes you can have more fun on an independent show than you can at a TV show. And you never know. You could be seeing the next big person. I worked with Marco Stunt for years, and I never knew he would be in AEW. Out of anyone, I would never pick Marco Stunt, but even Blake Christian, you never know who you might be seeing, because you could be seeing the next John Cena, Brock Lesnar. But yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, no, definitely go out there, check out a local show if there's one local promotion that's coming near you, or something like an OVW who's still doing their little travel where they're doing shows on the road. I told Connor, I tagged him. OVW is actually coming to the Marathon Motorworks in Nashville, Tennessee pretty soon, and so I'm like I should get tickets. I should go see them. That would be really cool, because it's only a 45-minute drive for me, compared to a 2.5-hour drive to go see the tapings in Louisville. So I'm like, I'll drive the 45 minutes. It'll probably be fun. And I'd probably see people I didn't expect to see at the show. But I think this was a good conversation. I'm glad we can talk about independent wrestling. I want to thank you guys for joining me on tonight's topic. I think it was a really fun topic. I thank everybody for commenting. Before we get out of here, let's highlight some of these comments. Thanking everybody that commented tonight. Hasten, thank you guys. We're feeling all right. Thank you, Richie. Appreciate that. That's your brother, right, Connor?
That's my dad, actually.
Your dad. Okay. Well,
Hey, Dad.
Thank you, Daddy Hayes. And so, yeah, AW had the World Series. That would be really cool. Roy, who have you refereed, Connor? I know I've heard all the stories.
As I mentioned, Boogeyman, that was the most interesting thing I've ever been a part of, and I do not wish that on anybody. Even my worst enemy, I did not wish refereeing a Boogeyman match. Like when, like that is not fake worms, people. Like that is real crap. And
yeah, back when Fear Factor used to be on the air all the time, like, yeah, I could do that. No, I'm not putting that in my mouth. Nope.
I'm not putting bull testicle in my mouth. Sorry.
This dude had a mouthpiece, and he took his mouthpiece out. And I don't even know how he has a girlfriend at this point. I don't even know how he has kids. Like, who? That's just disgusting. Imagine having to go in that building the next day and clean all that crap up. But Boogeyman, Carlito, Moose, who else I refereed? Chris Masters. Big names, I'm guessing you're referring to, because I've refereed a lot of people, but you probably won't know who they are. I've refereed a decent amount of big names. Does anyone know who Bill Dundee is?
I'm sorry,
Bill Dundee.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, he went against JLL a lot in the Memphis Wrestling.
Yes.
Refereed some of his matches. Very interesting. What is your
Yeah, let them know it's the it's the AAA or AAW in Chicago. They're on YouTube, so if you want to check them out, Ethan, go ahead and check out some of their stuff on YouTube. Really cool promotion.
I can't remember what his son's name is, but if I'm sure if you look it up, it's on YouTube. He went. The match I was referring to was he went against Nick Aldis for the NWA Championship. I believe it was in like 2018. Like it was right when AEW was fixing to start, so it's probably late 2018 or early 2019. Yes, he was. He was over there permanently, but he was on there occasionally. Theory or Evolve show. Yeah, he started out there.
Yes. Evolve is another.
Yeah, they showed Triple H going to Evolve on a few occasions.
Oh yeah.
I believe Keith Lee started there too a little bit.
Yeah, he had to leave. The buffet wasn't big enough. But he found the buffet at the at WrestleMania, so it's all good. No, so excuse me, Hall of Fame.
Yeah, he did.
Right behind CM Punk. I wonder how that went over in the locker room.
No, that'd have been funny. That wouldn't miss. Is anyone going to SummerSlam?
I
not unless I hit the lottery between now and
then. I don't know if I'll ever. I don't know if I'll be able to travel to Cleveland. It's not a far drive for me, but I just don't know if I'll be able to do it that weekend. I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you, my thing on one of those big shows is you know how much money it's going to cost you between travel and seats, and I'm not going to pay the money for those seats if I have to watch the matches from one of the TV screens. I want to be able to see the ring, so that's going to be the only way I pay to go to one of those big events.
Yeah. But yeah, no. So awesome comments. Thank you all guys for commenting.
The last thing I'll say before you finish it up,
yeah,
I want to say I'm glad how smooth the show went, because the day started off a little rough, and he might seem calm now, but earlier talking to Connor, I was truly afraid for my life, and I'm just glad we made it through this.
Yeah. No, I'm glad. Yeah. I'm glad all three of us can make it tonight. Because again, yeah, this day is kind of rough for a lot of us, and so I'm glad to see you two. I love talking to you guys. I really do, and it goes for everybody that's part of this podcast. I don't say it enough, but I love every single one of you that do this podcast with us, from us to the Canada side, to everybody that does the reactions, to everybody that, hell, even people that watch and listen to this show. the listeners and the viewers and subscribers. I love you guys, because like Jason said during the show, this is my escape, like from life right now, because life is stressful, life is full of negatives, but you got to find positives and you got to find escapes, and I believe that this is one of them. Outside of also yoga, because I do meditation yoga, so that also helps too. But yes, I always enjoy talking to you guys. So Connor, Jason, as always, I always appreciate you guys. Everybody listening, commenting, viewing, whatever. Again, hit that like button, subscribe. We are on YouTube, we're on Twitch, we're on Instagram, we're on Twitter, we're all over the social medias. Just remember, we do our live reactions Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays for both All Dynamite and Page Collision. We do sometimes do reactions to the pay-per-views. Make sure you join our Tuesday night Canada crew as they do their shows. Obviously, we're here every Thursday for Talking Elite. And tomorrow, Connor, I'll let you remind everybody for tomorrow.
Yeah, we have us to begin the show, Ross and Marshall Von Erich. It's our most viewed video ever. No, our most viewed interview ever. Kevin Von Erich was on. Part of the deal of that interview was we get his sons on too. Ross and Marshall Von Erich will be on here tomorrow. 4 p.m. Central Time, 5 p.m. Eastern. Same time as it was posted yesterday. They'll be on. If you guys have any questions you'd like to ask them, pop in the chat and leave a comment. We'll show it up. We'll try to get as many as we can. I don't know how many people. It depends on how many people normally is on interviews, depending on how many questions we can allow on, but definitely join us tomorrow for that. And we have a lot of other interviews. I've been talking to a few people. I guess I'll get people talking. Our next guest after Kevin Von Sons, is he actually is a coach at WW. Actually, we were talking about today. It's not Al Snow, but this person is he was a tag team champion at WWE, and his partner was his actual brother. And it's not the Hardys. I wish it was the Hardys. If it was the Hardys, it'd be a dream come true. But it's probably someone you least expect. But I'm really excited for this one coming up. And we have a lot of other interviews. I plan on getting a few more women on here. I feel like we don't do enough of that. We've had 2 women, and it's been since we first started this podcast. Yeah, definitely stay tuned for tomorrow for our interview with Ross and Marshall Von Erich.
Yeah, no, very excited. Definitely enjoyed the interview with Kevin. So very excited to talk with his sons. We've seen them in AEW already, so very excited for that. Again, thank you, Connor. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We will see you guys tomorrow for the interview and our live Rampage reaction. And as always, good night, everybody.